And welcome into our final McCue report here of 2014. Another fall camp has come and gone, and now to recap it all, Dave Koehn, Director of Broadcasting, voice of the Cavaliers, along with Jeff White, Director of News Content on VirginiaSports.com. Jeff, I know that for all the student athletes and coaches that came in here, a lot of questions out there going into this fall camp, and undoubtedly all those questions were answered, right?
Maybe, maybe not. No, I think some questions were answered. A lot of them we just won't know till they get out on the field next Saturday against UCLA.
Yeah, and one of the big questions, I know we talked about this at some length last week, was around the offensive line. I mean, that still remains one of the outstanding questions as we wrap up fall camp here and move into the regular season a week from today. Now, what did you feel like was accomplished, and how much still remains unresolved going into this first game?
Well, a lot of guys got a lot of work at a lot of different positions. I mean, we've seen players work at center, guard, sometimes tackle. It's still a work in progress, obviously. Doesn't seem like there's a set five at this point. I think the coaches are going to take all the time that they can. They don't have to rush to make this decision, so they're not going to.
Last year, one of the challenges for that offense was coming up with those explosive plays, those game-changing plays. Outside of the VMI game, there was only one play of 30 yards or more, and that's undoubtedly been one of the real things that this coaching staff has looked to change going into the season. We did see some changes in the form of some of the potential playmakers, the Taquan Smoke Mizels, Khalil Shepherds. That can happen on special teams. It can happen on offense. It can happen on defense, quite frankly, in terms of those turnovers, those game-altering plays. But did you see any things that led you to believe that maybe we're going to have more of that this year than maybe we did a year ago?
You know, I think what we saw from the wide receivers, gives you a measure of confidence that there will be more of those plays. I mean, last year, Kevin Parks had a fantastic year, but, in a baseball analogy, he's more of a singles or doubles hitter. He's not going to take it 70 yards to the house most of the time. And, I think with Smoke Mizell, he's a guy who can make big plays at tailback. I think all the receivers, almost down the line, everyone had his moment at some point during camp, and a lot of the guys had multiple moments. We saw it from Gooch, we saw it from Donnie Dowling, Kamara, Koehn and Severin had a fantastic scrimmage the other night, Darius Jennings. So, if the line can hold up and Grayson can get the ball to those guys, I think they can make more big plays this year, and this offense needs it. I mean, Steve Fairchild has talked about it. It's hard to move the ball up and down the field 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. You got to have some big plays.
So as we come to you from just outside the beautiful, brand new, well, we'll say in its second year, George Wells Indoor Practice Facility here just outside the McCue Center, one of the things that you'll see this team do in practice, and we saw it here on this last day of camp, is pumping the crowd noise and everything that comes with a game day environment. So the challenge, simulating that. Obviously, there's no way to truly simulate a game day environment. It's always intriguing to see how these things translate from practice, things that seem like they're working in practice. Does it ultimately play out that way come game day next Saturday? Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, particularly on special teams, I mean, that's really hard to simulate. As much as they try to make it live, I think for Ian Fry, the field goal kicker, it's a lot different being out here at the practice field, even when they're piping in crowd noise, trying to make a 40-yarder as opposed to trying to make it in a game when there's a lot on the line. And, same with special teams and return. So, unfortunately, as much as you learn from a team during training camp by watching them every day as we have, there's a lot you still don't know until it actually counts, no question.
I had a chance to visit with some of the coaches earlier this week as we discussed some of the things that they're looking for. Really, one of the buzzwords talking to those guys was confidence, and that was something that was in short supply last year, and obviously winning leads to confidence. And you wonder how important is an early good start to the season for this football team. No easy feat going against a UCLA team that comes replete with a Heisman candidate quarterback and all sorts of weapons.
I mean, I think, getting off to a good start in the first game, but just that first stretch is huge, because if a team hasn't won a lot, there are not a lot of players left from the 2011 team who kind of remember that experience and can draw on that. You don't want to see a team get in a hole and have to fight its way out of it. So, starting well on the 30th is important, but then following that up against Richmond and then Louisville.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that challenge that comes next week, the first challenge of the season. Brett Hundley, this guy's about as easy to solve as a Rubik's Cube. I mean, he can beat you with his legs, he can beat you with his arm, and not only that, he's seasoned, he's experienced. This defense, though, if there was a strength of this team, it's on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think the fact that John Tenuta and his staff have had the whole offseason to prepare for Hundley, gives some kind of advantage. It's like, you're not going in cold. You don't have to worry about other games in front of it. So, that should help some. Players should be in the right position. Ultimately, though, they have to make plays. They have to make tackles in the open field. They have to cover the receivers. So, it'll be interesting to see. I feel good about this defense. I think, like the rest of the team, it made it through in pretty good physical condition, which is important from training camp. So, they should be able to put the 11 guys out there that they want to. And they know Tenuta's system, and they know what he wants, but it's still going to be a challenge.
Well, one more fall camp in the books. The Cavaliers will take on the Bruins at UCLA next week on Saturday. We will see you then. That is going to do it for us here in this McCue Report here in 2014. We'll see you at Scott Stadium next week.